Raider Nation, stand up. Please stand up. Cover 3D Raider podcast here. Dwayne Douglas, Sean Oahu Raider, and Monster Mash. Ken, gentlemen, how you doing today?
Feeling good, man. Ready to get into it.
Let's go. Off season. So let's see how we kind of tackle this off season. Cover 3D at Cover 3D on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We have a bunch of new people watching us on YouTube, especially last week's show. So we appreciate that. Thank you for people who are listening or watching our show in Norway, Tucson, Arizona, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Virginia Beach, Virginia, West Sacramento, Madison, Wisconsin, and Grant Pass, Oregon are all listening to the Cover 3D or watching the Cover 3D Raider podcast. 858-429-9465 is your text line. So give us those texts, whatever DMs. I know some of you guys are hitting us up as well. So great conversation with Raider fans, and that's what our show is all about. We have a guest. As 2021 continues the year of the guest on our show, and we have some really good ones for you. This week it's going to be Evan Groat. He is from Silver and Black Today and Just Pod Baby. I believe in upstate New York. What's the weather like out there, Evan?
Yeah, that's right. Western New York, just outside of Buffalo. Got about 5 inches of snow today. We actually had gone a couple weeks without any snow, but we got hit pretty good today. So it's real cold and snowy up here. Yeah.
Is the Mafia wallowing in their tears, or are they optimistic for the next season?
Yeah, I think overall the general thought is that things they got a bright future. I think they're built to last, and they really like their quarterback up here. So overall they're taking it pretty well.
All right, first question is with Gruden now. We're going to year 4 now. I guess progress. Best technically, the record got better every year if you go from 7-9 to 8-8. But this is really a tough situation for them. Do you feel like if there's a lot of pressure with this job, especially the way he's doing it? Do you feel like he is built to handle this pressure? Because this is basically, he's getting paid, but at the end of the day, this is a big ego job. He's taking it on like he's Belichick, but he's basically Belichick without the results right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think he's built for it. I think he's got the confidence of that 10-year contract. I mean, he's not going anywhere. Mark Davis loves him. That's the reason why he brought him in and gave him this monstrous contract, 10 years, $100 million. So he has the confidence of his owner. And yes, things are going along a little bit slower than I think a lot of the fan base would like. But as you said, there has been some steady growth from his first season, 4-12 to 7-9 in year 2, and a small 1-game improvement to 8-8 in his third year. I do agree though that fourth year, I think things really got to get turned around. I got to see some major improvements in the defense. In the record, they absolutely have to be knocking on the door here of the playoffs. I don't know how this fan base is going to take it if this team is not really a strong contender for the playoffs next year.
We know the defense was horrible. It was beyond horrible. It was one of the best. It was one of the worst units, and we could in the history of the franchise. Gunther goes away. You're bringing Gus Bradley. Are the Raiders making a mistake if they say, "Hey, it's just the defense that has to get fixed this year"?
No. I mean, I do think the defense is obviously the big problem. I mean, if you're pointing the finger, it's certainly at the defense. They were bad all season long from the get-go. They arguably, you can make the argument they got worse as the year went on, which kind of led to the firing of Paul Gunther. But there's more problems on this team than just the defense. I think the offense, as much as we hear how good they were this year, and I do agree they were very good, scored a lot of points. I think towards the end of the year they struggled to run the ball consistently, and whether that was due to injuries along the offensive line or injuries to the running back, those are all true. But they really struggled. inside the red zone. And I think that kind of caught up to them, and really combine that with the struggles the defense have. Those two factors really cost them games down the stretch. So it's more than just the defense, but yes, the defense is definitely the underlying problem with this team.
I know you're cold out there in Western New York, so I'm gonna bring it to my good friend Sean, Oahu Raider, who's out there in Hawaii.
Hey Evan, how's it, man? I just like the way I'm looking at how everything's coming together. As you just kind of hit on, it was a good segue into my question. Is that, yeah, the defense is a priority. There is some tweaks on the offense that they need to either sustain or get better at, which I think everyone's confident that at least, you posted a top 10 offense, you can get there. Gus Bradley's hired. He comes in. He accepted a very difficult job. I don't care what anyone says. He could have went somewhere else where he had a couple stars to work with. He had a couple, Pro Bowlers. He had somebody he's worked with before. No, he went off relationship. He signed to sign up and work with Gruden and Mayock. Not a lot of trade capital, not a lot of free agency room right now. My question to you is, do you think, as much as you follow the team and looking at it, do you think Mayock and Gruden are trying to assemble something to possibly trade anything that's on the team right now in order to gain more capital to build the defense?
I haven't gotten that impression that there is a big trade in the works. I think what the big thing is, they're going to have to take a look at some of those contracts that they have. A guy like Trent Brown, who's making a lot of money. If they're looking to get under that cap number, which I believe they're as of right now, I think they're a little bit over the cap, $7 million, I believe it is, somewhere in that range. And the number could, the cap for the entire league could drop a bit next year. So they're going to have to do some maneuvering to that roster if they want to have some money in their pocket to spend. Trent Brown's one of those names you keep hearing about. Tyrell Williams is another big contract that's coming off the books, or that could come off the books. LaMarcus Joyner as well. So those are a couple big names I think that you may not see back. Richie Incognito's another one. I mean, what are they going to do with that offensive line? So there are some ways that I think they can free up some money to go out and be aggressive in free agency, but I don't necessarily think it's there's a big trade in the works.
Oh, no, thank you. I mean, it's tough. I agree with you there. I just don't know. I feel like at this point they need to exhaust all options to break 500, and they may have to do something shocking.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a good, smart move or anything like that, but I think when you look back at Gruden has made a couple trades here in the last couple of years since he's gotten here. I think about the Antonio Brown trade and the Martavius Bryant trade. I mean, he has made some trades to acquire some wide receivers here that really hasn't panned out so well for him. So I think maybe in the back of his mind, they may be a little bit hesitant to go out there and trade some of those draft picks away. Absolutely.
Hard situation for him to be in. My next question kind of pertains to what we've already hit on. Josh Jacobs, I don't think anyone's denying the type of talent he has. He's a physical back. He'll run it inside. Maybe he likes contact a little bit too much. He's not the breakaway scorer. We were talking about that last week on the podcast. But, however, with Incognito and with Trent Brown as giant question marks and cap casualties that could help them free up space, looking at that and looking at how important it is for Gruden to run the ball, which completely fell off this year. It was not a good running game. They punched them in at the goal line. They were a little better down there. Josh Jacobs still got in the end zone a good amount of time, but he averaged 3.9 a carry, which is very dismal, all things considered. Okay, so wanting to run the ball, not sure about Incognito, not sure about Trent Brown, first-round draft pick. A lot of people are already saying it. Do you think we're looking at a tackle or maybe the best guard on the board? Do you see O-line in that first round for Gruden and Mayock?
Well, generally you don't see too many guards going in the first round of the draft unless you're like a Quentin Nelson, who was, out of Notre Dame there a few years ago. Obviously we still got to see how things play out with Trent Brown. I am in the belief, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are pretty much done with Trent Brown. I still think if you can get him And I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if there's a motivation issue. I don't know if there's some unhappiness with the organization. I don't really know what it is, but I do believe there's something going on there that maybe we're not aware of. But if they can somehow sit him down and get him back on track, I just think he's just too talented to give up on, when he's right. I mean, he's one of the top tackles in the league when he's motivated and he's playing hard. So I do think they should try to bring him back for at least one more year. And I know that that's a risky move because he hasn't played much in the first 2 seasons. But like I said, when he's right, he's one of the best tackles in the league. So, obviously that's a big part of it. Now, if they are to take a tackle in the draft, the premier tackle in the draft right now is that kid out of Northwestern. I think his name is Rashawn Slater. So he's a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the same way. I think guard is hard, but I think if you've seen the gigantic guy playing at Alabama, Deontay Brown, he's a big human being, and he's a lot of what Gruden likes to do on that offensive line for the interior part.
That's true.
Fa'alele, he looks like a guy that maybe they could groom outside of tackle as well, outside of the name you've already mentioned. Regardless, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to pass you on to your side of the country, a fellow Frozen Raider brethren in Monster Mash Ken.
All right.
Hey, what's up, Evan? I'm out in Jersey here, and we got a little bit of snow, not as much as you and up there towards Buffalo, but nice talking to you. A big fan. Just Pod Baby. That's like one of the coolest podcast names ever. After Cover 3 Deep. After Cover 3 Deep, of course. I'm just kidding.
Of course.
So I want to kind of get into, I like to talk about fandom, about you personally and whatnot. Talk to me about why you became a Raider fan. Why did you decide to report on the Raiders? What drew you in?
Well, it's kind of a funny story how I got into the whole writing side of things and then eventually into the podcast. Now, I became a Raiders fan. I grew up central New York, and of course, there's a lot of Bills fans in my area, but there's also a lot of Cleveland Browns fans, and amongst my group of friends, we're kind of all over the board as far as our sports teams. I got friends who are 49ers fan. I got a friend who's a Jaguars fan. New York Giants, so we're kind of all over the board. And of course, I'm a Raiders fan. For me, it all started in those formative years when I was a young kid growing up, trying to figure out which team I was going to cheer for. It was, the 90s, the early 90s. And of course, Bo Jackson was like the big time athlete, because he played baseball and football and all the Nike commercials and everything else. So as a young kid, obviously I was drawn to that. And also, if you recall, I'm not sure how old you guys are, the game Tecmo Bowl for Nintendo. That was a very, really popular game in the day. And of course, Bo Jackson was the most dominant player on that game. So as a young kid, I was drawn to him immediately and his abilities, and just like he was like a superhero. So really that's kind of what started it for me. And then of course, Marcus Allen was a part of a couple of those teams as well. And then, as I got a little bit more into it, I just really fell in love with guys like Tim Brown and I learned a little bit more about the history and Al Davis and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what drew me to the organization. And of course the colors too. And I know that may sound silly, but the silver and black, that was just, it was just so cool to me. The uniforms and the logo. So that's what it was for me. It wasn't like, I know a lot of fans out there grew up, it was a family thing. Their grandfathers were Raiders fans, passed it down to their fathers. And, that's just not how it was for me. It was a little bit different out here on the East Coast. And as far as, how I got into podcasting and I've done some blogging for different sites as well. Again, being out here on the East Coast, I have 0 friends that I have here in my little circle that are Raiders fans. And of course, my wife is a Bills fan. So I want to talk about Raiders football, but I had nobody to talk about it with. So for me, doing the podcast and writing about the team was a way for me to get all of my thoughts out, all the things that I've been wanting to say about the team. I'm able to do that now with the podcast. So that's really how it all got started. Is this, I wanted to talk, and so I said, okay, I'm going to talk into this mic, and hopefully there's somebody listening there on the other end.
It's funny. You mentioned like the age group, and we're all about the same age, and your fandom and how you became a fan is mirroring mine. And I grew up playing Nintendo within Tecmo, then you're
Yep.
seeing Bo Jackson with the poster with the pads on and the bat and the muscles, and Michael
Yep.
Jordan was there and all that stuff. So that's my era, and I could clearly what you just said. I grew up in LA, so they were the LA Raiders when I grew up, and that was a local team. So it's really cool to meet somebody that kind of had the same path as I did. Now, as far as like today's game, a lot of exciting talent on our team as of right now. You've got um, Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow is one of my favorite players. All these great players that have so much potential. So tell me about some of your favorite players right now. Who are you excited for? Who needs to make that leap going into this next year? What are you looking for?
Oh man, a few of my favorite guys. I love Josh Jacobs. I think he's, and I know that he recently got in some trouble there with the incident in Las Vegas. With being under the influence and all that. But I think I still think he's a great kid. I think he made a big mistake there. But I love the story of Josh Jacobs, how he came up, not heavily recruited, kind of was sending down his own tapes to different schools to try to get noticed. And I just love everything about him, living, his family struggling and all of that. I really love his attitude, and I love the way he plays the game. He plays the game with so much passion. So he's obviously one of my big favorites on the team. On the defensive side of the ball, I really like Max Crosby.
Yeah.
I've had him on the podcast, so I've had a chance to talk with him. And he's a real cool dude, I think, too. And same thing with him. I think he's just kind of a real humble guy. Real put your hard hat on and go to work. He's all about just the grind, and coming from the small school and whatnot. Again, he was not real heavily recruited as well. I kind of have a thing for those guys who, weren't as heavily recruited. I know Jacobs went to Bama, but he had to really work to get there. So I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for those kind of players.
No, I like it. The Gruden grinders, as they're so called, players that just have high motors, and you see that with Crosby and with Jacobs that just don't stop.
Yep.
Hunter Renfrow, guys that just don't stop. And
Yep.
in my opinion, I think Derek Carr is learning, and we're seeing that evolution of what he's becoming. He's getting better every year within Gruden's system. So obviously, there's a off season. There's a lot of talk about who's coming, who's going, who's our quarterback going to be. Do you feel like Derek Carr has cemented himself as the quarterback for the 2021 season?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing these talks for, it seems like, the last 4 or 5 seasons. I don't see any way he's not the quarterback of this team next year. We have seen growth in all 3 years that he's been with Gruden. He's continuing to get better. He's still only, I believe, 29 years old. So he's, age is still on his side. I just don't think, I'm all for looking into options if you can improve your team, but I just don't see a better option out there right now. There's no way you can tell me, outside of a guy like Trevor Lawrence in the draft, that you're going to be able to draft somebody who's going to come in and put this offense in a better situation than Carr does right now. And unless you're trading for a guy like Deshaun Watson, who's going to, take 2 or 3 first-round draft picks, which, I just don't think that's realistically an option as well. I don't see a better option out there. So that's the way I look at it. I'm all for upgrading, but and in the free agency, I don't think there's anyone out there as well who's an upgrade. And I know there's this talk about Aaron Rodgers going on. Listen, Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. He's going to be a Packer. There's no way they're going to let him out of that building. So, I think Derek Carr certainly is going to be the quarterback next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's done enough, and if you look at the offense, he had the offense rolling, and obviously it gets frustrating with some plays, and everybody wants him to play perfect, and he's doing all right by me. I don't think he's the problem. Um, he's not regressing, and I like to see that he's moving. He's moving the chains. He's commanding the team as far as the offensive side of the ball, and he's working with what he's got. So before I let you go, I got to ask one question. I always ask to all my guests. So you're in upstate New York. Obviously, we know buffalo wings are the thing there. What am I eating if I go visit you upstate New York, man? Where are you taking me? What's the spot?
Oh boy, outside of chicken wings, if it's not chicken wings, is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
or maybe it is chicken wings. You tell me. Like, if
Okay.
I'm gonna go hang out with Evan tomorrow. Where are you taking me to eat?
Well, there's this other meal up here that's quite popular. It's called a beef on weck. I'm not sure if you guys have ever, it's like a roast beef sandwich that comes on this roll. It's called a camel weck roll, and so that's why they call it beef on weck. And they serve it with like this little gravy, and it like I said, I didn't grow up in the Buffalo area, and when I got here, it was really popular. They serve it at all kinds of places. I don't really necessarily have a favorite spot, but outside of the chicken wing here in Buffalo, another real common meal is called a beef on weck, and it's a nice, tasty little sandwich. And you could make them right at home if you want. You just pick up some roast beef and some camel weck rolls, and you can make it right at home. So yeah, that would probably be another spot that I take it to.
Oh man, now I'm hungry because that sounds delicious. I'm gonna pass you back to Double D here, and thanks a lot, Evan, for hanging out with us.
No problem.
That's Evan Groat, Silver and Black today, and Just Pod Baby. Hey, listen, thank you for joining us here on the Cover 3 Deep Radar podcast. We look forward to hearing you later on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Anytime. I enjoy it.
Right
No
on,
problem.
Evan. Thank
No
you,
problem.
man. Stay warm.
Stay warm, yes. All right. So get some good nuggets there from Evan Groat on Silver Black today, talking about the Raiders here. I want to just let's have a little fun here because let's just I want to personally squash the Rodgers Matthew Stafford situation real quick. I understand people have Photoshop and they know how to use it, and it's cute when they put people in different uniforms. So even if the Raiders have done such a poor job of kind of building the rest of the roster in a lot of ways, they instead of taking Devin White, they took Clelin Ferrell. They did. I like Josh Jacobs, but maybe you could have got another running back and had Montez Sweat and have Devin White on the same defense along with Max Crosby, things like that. So if we see those deficiencies, who else sees those deficiencies? Aaron Rodgers. Who else who sees those deficiencies? Matthew Stafford, and who I don't think Stafford would be an upgrade from Carr, but that's another argument for another day. But they didn't even put themselves in a position to be attractive to Tom Brady in that moment. Like if they were loaded, ready to go, maybe he said, hey, maybe he said, hey, I would have went to the Vegas to play with the Raiders. But, because we had Gunther Gunther, Gunther is not a great defensive mind. We all know that. They didn't do a good job in the draft. They didn't do a good job in free agency. This is what, we need somebody like Gus Bradley to come in who can run the most simplest defense in the world. At least you could play that fast, and then he can remix off of that once you get it, things like that. But I mean, they have not put themselves in a position, Sean, to even make that phone call to Houston for Deshaun Watson, right?
Not at all. And I think it's easy to separate the two things. I think I stand on the side to where I don't think it's that hard to upgrade a quarterback in Gruden's system from what Carr is. I think he's done great things. He did very well and certain standpoints of how the offensive moved this year. But Mariota came in and it was the same thing. So, and he barely had a practice, barely had a snap. People could say it's one game. That's Gus Bradley. He did that against Gus Bradley, the coach we just hired to be a defensive mastermind. So there's some things to look at there, but Watson, Stafford, Rodgers, None of them are coming for a multitude of reasons. One, which you said, Dwayne, we're not a stable organization.
No.
Two, Gruden's ego is massive. Players talk to each other around the league. They text each other. Everyone knows what Gruden's appeal is. It's for the players that are trying to get a big contract. We had to make Tyrell Williams pay the wide receiver one money. We paid Trent Brown the highest paid offensive line contract in the league to get to come play for us. But Gruden's here sitting here. Players are dying to be Raiders. No, they're not. They're not at all. He's trying to market himself because he's a media genius, because that's his background. So no, nobody's going to come to the Raiders. And look at our division. Who wants to come play Mahomes? And look at what Herbert did in his rookie year. And Denver could easily be a landing spot for a Stafford, for a Trey Lance, for who knows. There's so many quarterback options out there. So I think it's a terrible thing top to down. For any, especially a guy with Rodgers. He's trying to get one more championship. He's not going to come to a team that's still trying to rebuild in its fourth season. So it's easy to distinguish the two things. Carr has been good. He's had great games, 4 to 6 great games a year. He puts out great games. He has his head scratcher games and his moments, but he's our quarterback, and he's going to be the quarterback no matter what. I don't care what comes on the table. Gruden is too stubborn, and Mayock will not be able to bend him outside of any logic anyways, even if he was thinking that. So Carr's our quarterback. The rumors are interesting. They're going to be here all the time because Gruden seems to always love quarterbacks in the media booth, but he's solidified who he wants as his starter, for better or worse, and deal with it. But I will say this. When you're talking about unstable organization, it just came out today. Nelson Aguilar didn't really like his season in Las Vegas. Vic Toffer's already reporting on it. Vinny, they're already starting to talk about it. Aguilar said he didn't really enjoy it. People are saying why, and some are saying, well, the back of the season collapsed, the unstable organization, things don't run smoothly. These are the things that are coming out. This is Nelson Aguilar, who took a 1-year veteran minimum deal and had a great season, and now we're probably won't be able to retain him, not because and if we do, we're gonna have to throw him the bag of money to do it. So we're not gonna be able to get an Aaron Rodgers if we can barely keep a Nelson Aguilar.
That's a good point. I want to lead into two things here, and even recap what Evan said. It's going to take a lot to upgrade at quarterback to where you're at right now, and it's just not worth it. It's not the problem. It's not. I mean, Derek Carr, like you said, Sean, has his head-scratching games or throws or whatever, but he has progressed every single season under Gruden, which is what we want to see.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are looking at other teams and how they run their offense or what kind of style of play, like Lamar Jackson's exciting. He's an exciting player. Deshaun Watson's an exciting player. Mahomes is incredible. Like, I hate him so much because he's just so damn good. Like, even watching this last game against the Bills, it's like, how are you making these throws when you're getting tagged? It's just insane. And I think a lot of people want that in Derek Carr, and it's just not going to happen. But then if you go back and you look at, and you look and see what Tom Brady is doing, Tom Brady's making these throws that are on point, but I mean, Derek Carr's playing just as well, I think, at some points, and there's nobody there where it's going. I mean, you had a really good point. Is Aaron Rodgers going to want to come here and then maybe I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love to see it. I'd love to have Aaron Rodgers to take the helm. Yeah, but at what cost? Probably not.
Maybe if we were still in the Bay Area, maybe.
That's a good point because
maybe
he's a NorCal kid. But one thing that Anthony Davis from the Lakers put out, and it kind of got me thinking. He was saying like how unhappy he was in New Orleans. They were losing. It was a losing mentality there. And I think with this generation, in a social media generation, right? Look at me. I put my feelings out on social media to a bunch of strangers, or I had, you see all this stuff. It's a different culture than it was in the early 2000s, 90s, whatever. I'm not saying like I'm a strong person, like mentally, whatever. Physically, I'm not. But these players are really physically strong. But how mentally strong are they? Look at guys like Trent Brown. He thinks he's an underdog. Dude, you're not an underdog. You're not.
You're a blue chip prospect, cousin.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get that. I think that and you think about the culture that Gruden brings, like who can fix that mentality where it's gotta be these guys, these young kids that are playing football have to be on winning teams to keep them going. And I think that's why we're seeing the defense kind of give up, because there's no leadership there. Gunther was not a leader. He was not leading these men. On the offensive side of the ball, I think Carr is a leader. He's becoming a better leader, I think. And then you got the offensive line, because that's your core right there, right? That's what's moving the ball. You got to look at Rodney Hudson. So who's leading these men mentality, like to make them feel like, yeah, we're losing right now, but we're going to be here, rather than like, they go in the locker room, they hang their heads. And it sounds like the news about Aguilar, that what you just said, Sean, is very discouraging, because it's kind of just feeding into it. Like,
Yep.
It's
was that rumor? Was that, I mean, Vic is tapped in, so I'm not gonna down that. If he say, was it like it was a face-to-face interview, or was it just like rumors?
So there's rumors that came out. A fan asked Vic, why didn't Nelly like Vegas? He said the organization doesn't run that smoothly, and the collapse, just a feeling I got. He hasn't said it. So I'm trying to peel back a little bit, but I believe what it came from, if I'm right, was a social media type of thing where someone peeled out an exchange he had. But I mean, speculate whatever. I mean,
cash rules. So I mean,
he probably trying to finesse himself to get as much as possible.
Probably, yeah. I mean, looking at Ken's shirt, cash rules everything around me. So just, just so we know. I would say this too. To Gruden's leadership, it's interesting that I got somebody I love. I mean, one thing I like about some of the guys on Raider Instagram, they put out some really cool facts. I gotta give this guy. I wish I could give this guy credit. I forgot what site what his handle was, but he did say that the Raiders. Fun fact: the Raiders had 29 players on the COVID-19 reserve list, the second most in the NFL.
It's crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. And
that's to me. I mean, the coach had it. Like it was known in the organization that the coach had it. Like, where was I worry about his discipline or just organization to like get these players to be like, hey, like just to wear a mask in public. Do all the things you gotta do to avoid it, like that. Like I didn't even hear that from the Bucks. Did you hear that from the Bucks or the Chiefs?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Those two teams right there. Those two teams who are in the Super Bowl. I was just gonna say this.
The Bills, like
they were playing because they knew they were going to go somewhere. They knew they had the Super Bowl circled. There was a realistic achievement, and it was burned into their brain, into their practices, into everything they do. You're playing to play in the Super Bowl. Gruden's probably talking about you're playing to play 8-8. That's probably where they're at right now. That's just not a winning mentality.
It's funny because like
kicking field goals is not going to win you games, and that's a mentality thing.
I saw
number one in the league.
Yeah, I saw the Browns. With every week, the Browns got closer to making the playoffs. You saw more and more masks on the sidelines. I noticed that.
What am I going to wear a mask for? We're not going to go anywhere.
And all of a sudden they were like,
doing that?
No, I did not. Nope. It's kind of interesting how that was one of the things that was there. Let's see here. You get some questions here from the 718. And then, like I said, will Nelly be back? I don't know. I don't know if Nelly's going to come back. I think it's that's good information from Vic. Vic also, I mean, Vic also did say that he thought Mayak would be one and done, but like, you can hit or miss sometimes, but he's tapped in to the situation. It could be Nelly. I mean, Nelly, I understand the collapse and everything like that. I mean, but I give him credit if he does leave because of that, Ken and Sean, because you know what, for him, he has a higher standard. He came from Philadelphia. He has a higher standard of where his team should be. He had a great year. It wasn't because of his play or the quarterback situation. I mean, he got him the ball in big time situations. He just said, "Hey, I have a higher level, and I want to make sure that this organization is doing what they're supposed to be doing." Right?
Yeah, I think he can go wherever he wants right now. But the way he played, he can go wherever he wants. He's going to get paid, and I don't think the Raiders can afford to keep him. As much as I want him to stay, it is as exciting of a player as he was.
Yeah.
It sucks because that's the revolving door that we're dealing with, man, and it sucks.
So, just to cap on that, and I agree with what you're saying, I'm frustrated just as well, Ken, because I thought Aguilar, we talked about Obidi Williams last week, like number 15, reminded us of Crabtree. I mean, just Carr was letting it go to him. I mean, he was extending plays, throwing to him. He was going off his read and throwing to him. He was going out play action, throwing to him. Aguilar was nearly almost eclipsing 20 yards a catch. I mean, he was sensational for us. You take him out this season, and we would have seen a struggling rookie Ruggs and Edwards, who was injured on and off trying to get out there, and
Elon
more
Doss.
Renfro, and Waller probably would have been swallowed up and probably wouldn't have broke 1,000 yards and broke Tim Brown's record this year because he would have been the only thing again. But so I think what happened, what I'm looking at is that is he happy? Is he isn't? But supposedly it's Vinny's article. So now I'm getting some things coming through. But he's looking for come back another 1 year. So Vinny said, my gut feeling is he's gone. Not sure he loved it here. So there's another person that's out there sensing something in the locker room or a vibe or a personality trait. So
who's Vinny said that?
Vinny said that, yeah.
Oh, Vinny. Oh, yeah. Vinny.
So
yeah.
was asked.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So Vic was asked and said the same thing.
Yeah.
Vinny was asked and said, my gut feeling is he's gone. Not sure he loved it here. So
yes, he's gone. He's gone.
He's gone.
He's
I
gone.
mean, he's gone. So let's just accept that. The problem with that is like I'd like to keep Nelly. My problem with that is we just got the first wide receiver taking the draft. We had Edwards in the third. We already had Renfro installed here. We're 2 years away from trading Amari Cooper, from trying to trade for AB, from trying to trade and exchange picks for Martavis Bryant. I mean, Gruden has said since he got here, I want the best wide receiver group in the league. He has nothing. He's going to have Zay Jones again in camp. He's going to have Rico Gafford again in camp. He's going to have all these same people. We're not going to have a star wide receiver. And why is that? Is that entirely Gruden? Is that no one wants to play with Carr? Well, there's a pretty good free agency class right now, crop of wide receivers, and we're going to have to shake his stick at if we want one of the good ones. We're going to have to pay him. If not, what's it going to be day one? It's going to be Ruggs. I hope you're developed and ready. I hope you can get off man coverage, which he struggled with.
Yeah.
Edwards, I hope you were our top secret weapon all camp. Well, he did make a nice catch later in the season from Carr downfield. We need him to be ready, and we need to see something different in the wide receiver group, quite frankly, because we haven't seen the running game unless that gets back to going. I mean, Carr's our best chance to win on offense. Let's just keep it that way. But Aguilar leaving would be a huge loss in my opinion. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's going to just repercussions of him leaving. Like if guy like in that caliber who is not a tier 1 wide receiver, if he's leaving, that's going to show to everybody else. Like, well, if he's got issues, I'm not going to go there.
So I didn't even think it is. So if he leaves, you keep Tyrell Williams, right?
On an incentive-laden deal, yes, yeah. He's not.
You kind of have to. And he wants to be there. Like he said, he played.
He said he wants to be there. Yeah, he wants.
He played at like Western Oregon State, I believe. So he played at a small school in college. He played at San Diego as they were relocating, so he didn't have fans there. So he said that he likes being around this fan base because he's never been around a loyal fan base in his football career. So.
I didn't think we'd be. Go ahead.
Well, we didn't have fans actually in the stands this year, but he wants to be here and buy in, and the contract's on the table. Yeah, incentive lace it, do what you got to do, and maybe that's the same thing you do with Trent Brown. You re-incentivize his contract and say you got to lose 35 pounds, or we're not paying you this and that. But
I think his personality is like, you're attacking me, I quit.
Oh, exactly. Trade me. I don't want to be here. I want to go to Tampa and play with Tom Brady. That's probably what he'll try to do.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm trying to look at some of these free agents. So I didn't believe we were looking. I didn't believe the Raiders would be looking in the direction of free agent wide receiver, but I guess they are. I didn't have that list up because I didn't think we would be in that list. But hey, there are some quality free agents here in this year around in 2021. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. I mean, he's not going to let his offense fall apart. It's just the bottom line. He's all about his offense. He's gonna, if he has to pay Allen Robinson, he'll pay Allen Robinson. He'll find the money. He'll do something. There's no way Gruden's gonna do that. I mean, he's all about his offense. We all know that. There's no question about it.
Well, like I said, Gus Bradley took a terrible job. Good luck, dude. He's going to get in there, and Gruden, I'm going to give you your resources. You're going to tap in. Now Aguilar's gone. Trent Brown might be gone. He's going to be looking at Gus saying, make it work. Here, you get a 4th-round pick, a 5th-round pick, and $10 million in free agency. Good luck.
Can you imagine they took a first round wide receiver again?
Oh,
That would be hilarious. I
Stop.
question from the 860 was about Rodgers and Stafford. I think we kind of answered that. Tyrell Williams back on a less money. I think we're down for that. Even if they brought back Nelly, if he's going to go on an incentive later deal, I don't have a problem with that. He wanted to know about somebody talked about the Leo position and want to know like what we're going to do at edge. So I did have some free agent edge players here. It's interesting to see because like I like the over the cap because they give you how much as far as like the snap count goes, like how many snaps they play. So like you might look at somebody like Matt Judon from the Ravens. He only plays 50% of the snaps. He's not a guy who plays all the snaps. So I think that's that kind of important to kind of look at. Bud Dupree plays about 60% of the snaps. I don't. After watching Shaquille Barrett, I don't know how they ever took him off the field, but I guess he plays 77. Yannick Ngakoue plays 61%. So I guess you're looking for somebody to rush the passer as well. So there are some names here. You got to wait to see who gets what's that called again? Franchise or whatever. But you got to take it there. I'm a guy like Hassan Reddick, people like that. The one thing that is nice about the defense that he plays is that if you have a 3-4 guy like a Bud Dupree, he can play in this defense, even though it's 4 down linemen. So that's one of the good things. And one other good thing is he's had teams that don't have talent. I shouldn't say not have talent, but he has. It's such an easy defense to play once you get it that you don't need to have like the star guys. You can develop guys into it. So hopefully that helps the situation because everybody we talk to has said the same thing, guys, that if you can't play this defense, then you got to be out of the league.
You know what sucks about this offseason? Like the last 2 off seasons, I was really excited, really optimistic, but this season I think we're fucked, man. And I don't know what's going to happen here. I am very optimistic person, man. But I just feel like this team, as good as it looked at points in the beginning of the season, we're kind of far away. And the fact that Gruden didn't do anything, these 4 first round draft picks that we've had, none of them are really like jumping off. Look at Devin White is the pure example right there. That's it.
How could you watch that film?
He is the captain of that team.
God.
He is the captain of that team. You look at other players that just off the top of my head, like a Jalen Ramsey. He is like an impact first round player. He's there. And we
look
just
at
don't
Winfield. The
safety,
the safety. I mean, he wasn't a first round pick, right?
It's like a 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yeah, I mean. You obviously have guys like Max Crosby that have high motors and that contribute, but I mean he's not the answer. He can't do it alone. And even the free agent signings, I mean, it is just that bad. I mean, the offensive I believe the offense can get going and it can compete. Obviously we saw that. And I don't think losing Nelson Aguilar is going to be killer because the offense kind of flows through Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller, and Derek Carr has to be protected well. So that's your elements right there. So I think they can put in somebody and put him in a number 15 jersey and they're going to be all right. But the defense scares me, and you see what kind of defense that you need to play. They got to be at least mid-tier, and we're just so far away from it with no money, and I don't think Gruden's going to give up the high draft picks for a defensive player. It's going to take a lot. I'm really just discouraged. I hope that we have a good offseason, but it's looking grim.
They always do something interesting, so we'll see.
They really do. Whether it's controversial, whether it's like a risk, whether it's just someone who didn't see coming. But Bud Dupree's not happening unless you throw him a load. He's
hurt. I think he's hurt coming off an injury, so I don't want that guy.
Yeah. But he still had his base salary was like $15 million last year, so you're gonna have to pay him more than that a year. So be ready.
$16 million.
So 16. So be ready for that. The other thing is Mark Davis, he just bought like a women's basketball team. Is he going to dip into his pocket to help some of these contractor incentives as guaranteed money? Does he want to? Or is he just going to say, Gruden, I gave you the money. You figure it out. And is that going to cause more of an argument with Mayock? What kind of resources do you have? You haven't been tapped in this right. You haven't drafted right. So maybe Vic has a point. I don't know. Maybe something goes crazy over the next month as they go through this evaluation process. But regardless, I even look at a guy like J.J. Watt, thinking veteran, work hard. Like it really sounds like annoying to me to have to do it, but maybe they look at something like that. But you'd have to trade for him. He still has a year left.
Second round, maybe second round, third round.
They let him go. So I would say probably a third rounder would do it. Because they're, they can barely keep their own quarterback, and they got a lot of they just had an interim coach. They fired a coach. They got rid of Hopkins. They got rid of all their stars.
To your point, Sean, they need a defensive line leader. They need somebody who's going to say,
we don't have
one. So I almost am. I'm not sure, like, as far as schematically what he can play in that defense. I just feel like I do. Just listening to you talk, I think he describes what they need. I mean, he needs somebody to everybody's. It's nice to have the nice watch and everything you're throwing on Instagram, but like, are you bringing your lunch pail to work? He's kind of that lunch pail guy, I think, as well too. So
yeah, and that's why I think J.J. Watt appeals to me, although his age and everything, we know the talent he has, but JJ, like, look, what can he do for Cleveland and Max Crosby? Because they're not going anywhere. What their snap count is, I don't know. They're not going anywhere. Malik Collins came in with the captain on his chest. He didn't do anything vocally, physically, morally. He didn't do shit for this team. Nope. He was a ghost. So
he was horrible.
You bring in JJ Watt. And the good thing about J.J. Watt is he lines up everywhere. Okay, so if you see it's third down, you can put him at D tackle, and he can get a big push up the middle on third down. And maybe he doesn't have to play that, but you're gonna have to pay him. But at some point, you got to invest on the D line because it should help the dominoes fall for what looks like a Kwiatkowski and Littleton. Like, let's hope we can salvage Littleton, but Kwiatkowski looks solid when healthy. If they bring back Morrow, okay, those are the three best linebackers we've had in the last 10 years, if we're going to be honest. So we can make that work. Arnett and Mullen look like they'll be loving Gus Bradley's scheme, being able to play fast and play simple. And then if you can fix Abrams. So it's just about getting the pass rush on defense. Yeah. Really, it seems like there's a lot of holes. But if you get a pass rush, you'll be helped out. And if you get the leadership, like Dwayne said,
you got to get the leadership. That's why I think Melvin Ingram is going to be a Raider, because he's a leader. He's going to be a leader.
You get Ingram and J.J. Watt, and you keep the young core.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I'll be happy. Yeah.
I like it a lot, and I've been preaching that too. You need a coach on the field on the defensive side of the ball, and somebody like Ingram and Watt. I've been banging the table for. Yeah. I think that's perfect, and I'd love to see Watt in a Raiders jersey. That's rad. But it's got to be, I think, at all three levels. I think Kwiatkowski can take over that leadership role in the midfield there, but in the secondary, you still need a leader, man. And we're going to see what happens there.
I want to read a couple of these comments from YouTube, because we're kind of new to YouTube, and we're getting a lot of good downloads. From _DJ. I'm glad you all mentioned how the Raiders O-line is not run blocking. It's kind of soft. Some changes have to come. Boy George Strait said, let's see here, draft a speedster and tell Jacobs to gain 20 pounds. Problem fixed. I don't know if that does, but we'll see if that happens. And then Ruggs needs to gain about 15 pounds. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the hand fighting at the line of scrimmage is going to be the biggest thing. I mean, if he does that, along with a solid offseason, then he'll be fine. I thought about you two guys when I saw the way the Buccaneers ended the game.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay. Listen, I would give Brian Leftwich an interview just off of that bleeping play. I have never in my life seen the wide receiver little sweep play to run the clock out
from an empty backfield.
From an empty backfield. I mean, that was pretty slick.
Yeah, I thought they were taking a knee. Yeah,
no, come on, the knee.
That's playing to win, man. And
that's what the Raiders do. The Raiders take a knee.
They don't know that.
Take a knee. That was crazy. That was crazy. But yeah, I mean, listen, I definitely understand like everybody's feelings about it. I know they are definitely struggling. I'm not gonna go. I mean, if Nelson didn't like it, Nelson didn't like it. It is too bad because, talk about a guy who's a smart, quick study. That's not an easy playbook.
Yeah.
That's not an easy playbook, and he hammered that playbook in a COVID offseason. That's how I know, like, some of these guys, man. Sure, they play football, but they don't put in the work, man.
No,
I'm sorry.
no.
They don't put in the work. They put in
And
the work.
that's leadership. That's coaching. That's
But they
bad
don't.
coaching. Man.
Yeah, they obviously don't put in the work because they basically put in the work when they are in the building. But when they leave, I mean, Nelson Aguilar, he had to be putting in the work. He got a playbook, and he must have been in his house with like, was it Russell Crowe and Beautiful Mind going shoo, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because he came in ready to. You would think if you came from another planet, you would think Carr and Aguilar played together for 10 years.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
Absolutely.
So
It's
that's
hard to see that go.
That's absolutely nuts as far as that goes. I don't know.
I just want to chirp in real quick from
go
that
ahead, take your time.
question. They were talking about Ruggs. So Ruggs, he didn't do good off a line in press, and he didn't always see the team's best corner. He wasn't getting off of guys that he should be if you're the first wide receiver taken in the draft. I don't like small receivers. I think they're nice to have in your depth as a role player, but as your contributing big star player, how many small wide receivers do it? And if they do, they're physical, like a Steve Smith Jr., like a Hines Ward, like a Ruggs is not. Ruggs is not that. He's not that. He's a bird bone agile guy that's just gonna burn you once he gets in space. So use him that way. If not, my good example is Hollywood Brown, right? The Ravens. He was similar size and weight. He gained about 15, 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason. He looked a lot more durable this year.
Yes.
So we'll see. If Ruggs does that, yes. If he gets in another furniture accident or whatever other things happen in the summer,
like Denarius Moore, man.
Then we can we'll already know. If he thinks he's going to show up in that same frame and improve, that's a problem. And that comes from the coaching staff. So they should be in his ear that you need to be in this weight room. You need to be doing deadlifts. You need to be your arm strength, your lower body strength. You're not going to be who we need you to be if you stay like that. Now, there is a guy on the team who is built like that, and his name is Brian Edwards. So we'll just see. It'll be really interesting to see, what all happens in the wide receiver group.
Yeah.
I just don't get why they strayed away, Renfro's money, and on the other side there, Foster Moreau. Those are your two keys right there, and I just don't understand that. I'll never understand what happened there with that.
I mean, part of the goal line woes that nobody talks about is that there were plays where Witten was the number one option.
That's ridiculous. That's John Gruden.
I see Sean's face, and I was saying the same thing. Like why? Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, to me, I would have rather had an athletic tackle as an extra, as a tackle eligible.
Donald Penn.
It looked like he got hands.
Donald Penn.
He caught the football. He got open.
I don't know who's faster, Penn or Witten.
I mean, some of these, I can guarantee you, if you were you put Witten at the 50-yard line and put some of these young offensive linemen at the 50-yard line, I guarantee you he's not beating them. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. But hey, what do we know? We just have a podcast. Today is when somebody passes away, I don't know. I don't want to say it's the anniversary, but like, this is a year ago.
Oh yeah.
The year ago, Kobe passed away, and I think that as a Laker fan, I think one of the things that he said that really kind of stuck in my mind is that because there was a bunch of Kobe quotes, and they're everywhere right now, and then there's some people did some really cool videos of Kobe Bryant, but the biggest mistake we make in life is thinking we have time. I think that is probably one of the most things. So if you have a chance to go do something with your kid, you have a chance to go do something with somebody you care about, see grandma, see mom, like whatever, just don't put it off for next day. Just don't put it off for the next day.
Yeah, that's weird. You bring this up, and I got you guys know I got a little injury at work there. It could have been really serious, but it's weird because I woke up and the first thing I thought about was I can't pick up my kids because I can't stand up.
Yeah.
And things like that, like, I love my kids so much, and that's such a good point. spend time with your kids, man. Put your phone down.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your kids. And I've always preached that with my wife. Put your phone down. Let's just play with the kids. You know what? Because they're gonna grow up before you know it. And they're not gonna want anything to do with you until they want money.
Once they get their own phone or anything like that, they don't want to do with anybody as far as that goes.
Kidding.
Okay, so hey, listen. Thank you for joining us here on the Cover 3D Raider podcast. I'm gonna let Ken lead us out.
Yeah, I got a cool throwback here that I saw on Instagram. This is an NFL flashback. January 26, 1960. On this day, the Oakland Raiders were founded as a franchise and was one of the original 8 AFL teams. They would later relocate to Los Angeles, where they stayed until 1994. Having moved back to Oakland, they are currently the Las Vegas Raiders. So pretty cool stat there. 1960, January 26. Today, the Raiders were established. Anyway, hug your kids and keep strong, Raider fans. I know it's tough. Sean, what do you got?
No, I ain't got nothing much, but reach out and contact to us on whatever platform, whether it's the YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. But I think what we're looking for is we're peeling everything back here as we've kind of capped off the season, where we're getting good guests on. Ask us, drop mentions if you were trying to think someone we should get on. We'll try to do our best to do that.
Good point.
But I think what's coming up here, the first big phase of the off season, is free agency. So maybe if you guys have a free agency wish list, a couple running backs, couple offensive linemen, whatever you're looking at, that would be your wish list, or people we should trade for. Let us know, and we'll chop that down and break it up, because free agency will scream up upon us quicker than you think.
Yeah, and
that's all I got. Thanks for listening, for sure.
Yeah, and then Sean, we'll throw that on Twitter, and then we'll just kind of answer all those things there as well next week. So that'd be kind of cool. So, all right, guys, listen, you guys stay safe. Take care.
Peace.
Raider Nation, we out.